Section 3. 4 examples of Amazon Leadership Principles interview question and answers. So in this section, we're going to talk about 4 examples of typical leadership questions and some answers. The answers are coming from my own life experience, so you can use them to have inspiration and prep your own story using your own examples in your own life experience. All right, here we go. Question 1. Tell me about a time when you found a simple solution to a complex problem. This is a typical leadership question. So I'm going to propose a suggestion for an answer. Simple answer for question 1. I was in a meeting in my previous job where the company's sales data were being discussed by my managers. Although the sales numbers were healthy, there was some concern amongst the team that the profitability was not as good as it should be. And at the end of the meeting, I decided to try and find a solution to this problem. I met up with the marketing team and they explained to me the marketing spending on social media and other platforms. And after doing some research, it became clear to me that the team were not using tracking data system to measure the performance of the advertising. So I quickly informed them of what I had found. And moving forward, the team was able to measure accurately the return on investment. And this helped the company to increase profitability and sales by 10% during the next month. So this is a typical suggestion of answer you can use for your own example. Question number 2. Tell me about a time when you went above and beyond for a customer. It's a very good customer obsession question. Simple answer to question 2. I can remember a situation in my previous job as a rideshare driver. I picked up a customer at the hospital and drove her home. My goal was to make sure to provide a good customer experience and complete a safe ride as I always do. So I helped the customer to get in the car and then help adjust the oxygen bottle. And I also took care of all her personal items and put them safely in the car. And when we arrived at the drop-off location, the customer needed extra help to get in the house. So I helped the customer and I waited until a caregiver showed up to take care of her. And I also turned off my rideshare app. And after more than 30 minutes of waiting, the caregiver finally arrived and the customer thanks me and gave me excellent reviews. And the customer asked me to help her sign up for a monthly plan with our rideshare company. Question 3. Give me an example of a time when you asked for customer feedback. How did you use that feedback to drive innovation or improvement? And how did the customer respond? This is one of the typical question on customer obsession leadership. My simple answer for question 3 is I can remember in my previous job working as a data entry clerk for a data collection company, and I sent my report to a customer who asked me to do a study for him. And after sending the document, I asked the customer for feedback on my report. So my goal was to make sure to use the customer feedback and drive improvement of my reports for future projects. So the customer sent me a list of suggestions to improve the document. We did some back and forth and I took some days to complete the report. I also added more sections, graphics, and details in the new report, and then I sent the final version to the customer. And in the end, the customer was very satisfied with the results and gave his approval of the updated version of the report. And 3 months later, the same customer reached out to me and asked me to do another report for him. And he remains a loyal customer for the company since. So this is a very typical answer. Question number 4. Tell me about a time when you had to communicate a change in direction that you anticipated people would have concerns with. What did you do to understand the concerns and mitigate them? Were there any changes you made along the way after hearing these concerns? How did you handle question and resistance? Were you able to get people comfortable with the change? It's a very good leadership question. Simple answer to question 4. I can remember a time when working as a testing assistant manager for a construction company and at a previous job. It was very hard to find samples within the lab, which results in missing and loss of some samples, and a lot of delays in delivering testing results to the customer. So I communicate changes in direction in the lab to improve the way samples are received and organized. And my goal was to implement a new system and process and make it easier to find samples so the testing results can be sent out on time to the customer. And after communicating the new change in direction, other team members had concerns about the new system. So I listened very carefully to their concerns and incorporate some of their ideas to improve the system. And together we came up with a much better system and process where all technicians and team members felt very comfortable with. And after 4 weeks of training on the new system, we started getting good results. Everyone was able to find a sample very quickly, then perform the test and send the result to the customer on time and in the same day of receiving a new sample. And the new system helped improve the daily productivity of the testing lab by 20%. And customers kept coming back and gave great reviews of satisfaction to the company. So, in conclusion, when answering leadership questions, keep in mind to always use the STAR method format: situation, task, action, and result. You can see on my sample answers, I have a situation, I have a task where I'm explaining which goal I'm working toward, and I'm explaining all the actions I took personally, and I present the result at the end. And use your own examples as uh, as possible for each 14 leadership principles. Why you need to use your own example? Because of follow-up questions. You will be interviewing for a leadership position with HR team, with ops ops management teams. So they have a lot of experience on the job you are interviewing for. So try to use your own examples because they will ask you a lot of follow-up questions so you can give more specifics and more details for each questions. You will not pass the interview if you don't use your own examples because of follow-up questions. They will ask you a lot of specifics, a lot of technicals, a lot of details for each question in each story you tell. And have at least two examples of stories for each Amazon 14 leadership principles, from customer obsessions, ownership to delivering results. Have a lot of example of stories you can pull from when you ask a question. And practice and train yourself with friends and colleagues before your interview. One of the best way of doing it is to have a mock interview. So you simulate an interview with a friend or colleague. So they're gonna ask you a question and you practice, you train yourself using your stories so you can simulate interviews and prep yourself and be ready for any questions, any leadership questions. All right. So this section was about 4 examples of Amazon leadership interview question and answers using the STAR method format, and we have some sample answer you learn from. If you have any question, don't hesitate to comment or send me a message. In the next section, we will give 9 bonus questions of leadership you can learn from and prep yourself. And that's it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next lesson.